I would have been about 10 when I first saw my dad getting uneasy with the general stressors of life. I started seeing that over time he wasn't able to get up, being able to get himself to work. And I was embarrassed that he wasn't being able to keep conversations up. By the time I was 14 or 15, it just felt like he had lost touch with reality in some sense. That idea of having to explain something to give a person agency, I don't think it was considered in my case. So I went off to uni when I was 17. 4 months, 5 months later, the change in him was incredible. And I think it was the first time that I actually realized there was something physically wrong. I didn't ask anyone about it even then because I was kind of expecting that somebody would come and talk to me. And I remember going on to my mom or my dad's laptop and I found a letter on the desktop. And I remember Huntington's being mentioned. It just fell into place. I didn't chat with my dad about it then. I'm pretty sure I spoke to my mom and she said that, yes, your father has this. We didn't speak about the fact that me or my brother might get it. But I remember when I was going through the symptoms, every single thing sounded like something I could have. Being overly anxious and having bouts of depression, it was just a very strong gut feeling that I just had it. When I was about 19, I decided I wanted to get tested. My mom was against the idea of me doing it, and she said that I'd need my dad's blood sample, and she said I can't ask him, and if it is positive, it's going to kill him. My dad passed away in January of 2016. I spoke to my mom and I said, right, I'm going to just go ahead and get tested. And it wasn't that she was okay, she just wasn't resisting it anymore. I thought that I would have a couple of months of counseling and then be given my results on the agreement of a therapist who would give the green light that I'm ready for the results. So we went in, I met the geneticist, and then she was like, do you want to get your blood test done? So I said, yes. She got my blood test done. And then the geneticist told me that, yes, you do have Huntington's. It is positive. I remember going into the loo and locking the door and then just essentially falling on the floor, completely overwhelmed. I wasn't even crying. I think I was just screaming. It was the first time ever that I felt that level of guilt and shame. I remembered how sick my dad was, and it felt like it was a mirror because I was like, that's me in however many years. I was angry with everyone for some reason. I was angry with myself. I was I was for the first and maybe the only time I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have gotten tested. And I think I spent a lot of time ruminating about 20 years ahead and what that life would be like and how little time I had to have a good career or to have a family or to spend time with my friends. And I was just very scared to see my mom. So it's been 7 years since I tested. There were days when I felt like, right now I know I have a certain purpose in life, I have a certain number of years to do certain things. But then there were equal number of days where I was like, I don't want to make any friends. I don't want to date people. I don't want to have a family. What's the point of life? So I was really lucky when somebody got me in touch with one Huntington's family in India. And they were at that point just trying to create a support group in the country. And I was trying to make a film around Huntington's. I was very convinced that you need to be open and speaking about the diagnosis, raising awareness about it. But I was coming from a space where nobody had spoken about it for years. After I started meeting these families, I realized that there are so many things in the real world that affect how a person's family deals with it, that it is completely okay for you to not talk about it. And it's sometimes just easier for people to not have to put that additional emotional stress on them and their families. I really looked at advocacy and awareness as, shout from the rooftops and tell everybody that you have this, which I don't think is the same anymore. You're allowed to go through and understand your diagnosis as you feel fit for yourself. It doesn't matter whether you tell people. I think it's being able to tell yourself. And now I'm not constantly counting whether I have 10, 15, or 20 years anymore. It's not that important anymore. I think that's huge growth for me.